The Galactic War Council chambers hummed with barely concealed arrogance. High Marshal Zyrex Thorne stood at the center of the holographic arena, his forearms folded in practiced contempt. Around him, 17 alien species watched, the Vreth with their compound eyes, the crystalline Shakel, the gas-breathing Muruan, all representatives of civilizations that had waged war across the stars for 10,000 years before humanity had crawled out of caves. The humans, Zyrex said, letting the word sit like an insult, have submitted another petition for peace. Laughter, in 17 different biological frequencies, rippled through the chamber. Of course they have. Ambassador Kreeth of the Vreth clicked her mandibles. They always do. It is their nature. Cautious. Hesitant. They calculate the cost of every conflict and inevitably choose submission. We took their colony at Kepler Station, said General Voss of the Shakel, his crystalline body refracting the light into cold rainbows. They filed a diplomatic complaint. We took 3 more. They filed 3 more complaints. Now we move on Proxima Centauri, their home system, and still they send words. Zyrex nodded slowly. Humanity avoids war. It is their defining weakness. Accept their petition. Offer them terms of vassalage. We will need their industrial capacity intact when we absorb their territories. Not one voice dissented. Admiral Ethan Cross read the Council's response in silence. He sat alone in his command office aboard the UES Resolute, the flagship of Earth's 4th Defense Fleet. Outside the viewport, the blue marble of Earth turned slowly, patient, ancient, unaware. The response was exactly what his analysts had predicted: conditional surrender, resource tribute, military disbandment, and protected status, which every intelligence officer on Earth understood to mean slow erasure. Ethan set the datapad down. He was 53 years old. He had gray at his temples and a scar across his jaw from the Battle of the Jovian Belt, the last real war humanity had fought against each other 20 years ago. He had watched that war end. He had helped make it end. He believed, genuinely and deeply, that war was a failure of imagination. He also knew, with equal certainty, what happened to peoples who could not imagine victory. He opened a channel to Stratcom Earth. Inform the Council that humanity accepts their terms, he said quietly. Request 90 days to organize the transition. His aide, Lieutenant Commander Yuna Sato, looked up sharply. Sir. They'll grant it, Ethan continued, his voice unchanged. They think we're afraid. 90 days is nothing to a civilization that's been at war for millennia. They'll use the time to move additional forces into position. He paused. So will we. Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she understood. Operation Last Argument, she said. Ethan Cross turned back to the viewport. Get me the Joint Chiefs. The 90 days passed. To the Galactic War Council, they passed like a long, comfortable exhale. Zyrex received progress reports of human compliance, industrial shutdowns, fleet stand-downs, peace summits. He attended a celebration banquet on the Vreth homeworld. He accepted congratulations from 17 species on the bloodless acquisition of the most resource-rich young civilization in the Orion Arm. He should have asked why it was bloodless. He should have asked what humanity had been doing with its factories if not building weapons. He should have asked what 90 days meant to a species that had gone from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear fire in 40 years. To a species that had, in moments of true existential crisis, rewritten the laws of physics on a deadline. He did not ask. On day 90, at 0300 hours GMT, Admiral Ethan Cross issued a single order. All commands, execute. What happened next was documented by surviving observers from 6 neutral civilizations and later studied at war colleges across the galaxy for 300 years. At 0300 hours and 12 seconds, 47 Galactic War Council warships in Earth's solar system found their navigation systems simultaneously compromised by a cyber weapon no one had known humans were developing. Because humans had never used it before. The ships were not destroyed. They were simply stopped, hanging in space like frozen flies in amber, every system locked, every weapon cold. At 0300 hours and 19 seconds, the human fleet, the fleet that was supposed to be standing down, jumped into Shakel space through 17 simultaneous fold points, a feat of coordinated FTL travel that the Shakel themselves had never achieved at that scale. The Shakel home defense grid, calibrated for engagement at known jump points, was outflanked before a single targeting calculation completed. At 0300 hours and 44 seconds, Vreth High Command on Kreeth Prime received a data burst. Not a weapon. A broadcast. In perfect Vreth, which humans had apparently spent the 90 days mastering, it listed every Vreth military installation, every command code, every encrypted frequency. A single message followed: "We know everything. You have 12 hours to recall your forces. After 12 hours, we will use what we know." The Vreth recalled their forces in 9. In the Muruan gas cloud territories, human stealth platforms, invisible to Muruan sensor technology because humans had quietly reverse-engineered and improved that technology, sat at every Muruan fuel depot simultaneously. They did not fire. They simply broadcast their positions, proving they were there, proving they had been there for weeks. The Muruan ambassador requested emergency peace talks within the hour. High Marshal Zyrex Thorn received the reports one after another. His 4 hands were flat on the command table. His advisors had stopped speaking. The chamber that had laughed at humanity's peace petitions 42 days ago was utterly, completely silent. How? General Voss's crystalline voice was fractured, not by human weapons, but by something worse. Confusion. How did they know? How did they prepare? Because they're human. The answer came from a small, elderly Shakel scholar who had spent 40 years studying Earth. No one had listened to her before. Every eye in the room turned to her now. They never wanted war. That is true. But you confused wanting peace with being incapable of war. She paused. Humans avoid conflict the way a mathematician avoids an equation, not from inability, but from preference for cleaner solutions. When the cleaner solution was removed, she folded her thin hands. They solved the equation. Zyrex stared at the data screens. 47 warships immobilized. Shakel home defense grid bypassed. Vreth command structure exposed. Muruan fuel network threatened. And the human fleet, the fleet that was standing down, was somehow everywhere. They didn't spend 90 days preparing to surrender, he said slowly. No, said the scholar. They spent 90 days mapping us. Every ship, every code, every weakness. They studied 10,000 years of our warfare in 90 days and they found the pattern. The thing all our strategies had in common. She looked at Zyrex with something like pity. We always fight the war we planned for. Humans fight the war in front of them. The channel request came directly from Admiral Ethan Cross. Zyrex accepted it. The human was not what Zyrex had expected. He was not triumphant. He did not gloat. He sat behind his desk on his flagship looking, frankly, tired, the way beings looked when they had done something necessary and were not proud of the necessity. High Marshal, Ethan said. I'm going to offer you the same thing we always offer. Peace. Real peace, negotiated, mutual, binding. Zyrex's jaw worked silently for a moment. You had us. You could have. I know what we could have done. Ethan's voice was quiet. Firm. We chose not to. We're choosing not to, right now. 47 of your warships are sitting in our space powered down, and every crew member is alive and unharmed. Your infrastructure is intact. No one has died. He leaned forward slightly. That was intentional, Marshal. Not weakness. Intention. We're very, very good at killing. We have been for a long time. We simply prefer not to. The silence stretched between them across light years. What are your terms? Zyrex asked finally. The same terms we submitted 6 months ago, Ethan said. Before any of this. Equal representation on the council. Recognition of human territorial sovereignty. Free trade. Cultural exchange. A pause. The terms you laughed at. Zyrex thought about the 47 frozen warships. The Vreth withdrawal. The Muruan fuel depots. The Shakel home fleet, bypassed in 19 seconds. He thought about what humans might have done, and hadn't. We accept, he said. The Treaty of Proxima was signed 8 days later. At the ceremony, a junior Vreth diplomat leaned toward her superior and whispered, "Why did they not simply destroy us? When they had the chance." The superior watched Admiral Ethan Cross sign his name to the document, the same name that had been on every peace petition for 3 years. Because, she said slowly, they are exactly what they always claimed to be. She paused. They are not warriors. They are not conquerors. Another pause. They are humans. And the most terrifying thing about humans is not what they do when they go to war. Then what is? The superior watched Cross set down the pen, look up, and smile, the tired, genuine smile of a man who had gotten the only outcome he ever actually wanted. The most terrifying thing, she said quietly, is that they always meant the peace. And across the galaxy, for the first time in 10,000 years, the war councils grew quiet and began, carefully, to listen.